All right. Hey, everybody. We have another day and some new headlines. Today, we have OpenAI threatens to ban users who probe its strawberry AI models. So this article was originally posted on Wired via Ars Technica. Now, the very short version is that OpenAI has sent some ominous, basically, I guess, notifications to people who are trying to, basically jailbreak the strawberry models. So if you're not familiar, jailbreaking is basically using the model, talking to the model until you can either get it to change its behavior or reveal its secrets. And there's plenty of people out there on Twitter and Reddit and other places who have basically made a career out of jailbreaking models. Now, jailbreaking models is partially a safety issue. Because if you can, get a model to dramatically alter its behavior, it could be harmful, it could reveal secrets, it could violate privacy, and that sort of thing. So typically, it's against the terms of service to jailbreak models, but it's also kind of doing the AI companies a free service because every time someone jailbreaks a model, they advertise it on the internet, and so then OpenAI and Microsoft and Google, they can say, okay, cool, there's an edge case that we need to patch up. So it typically hasn't been enforced, but rumor has it, I don't know anyone personally, so that's why I'm just saying rumor has it, that a few people have had their OpenAI accounts suspended for trying to jailbreak the newest chat GPT models, the O1. So here's the thing. I was just testing O1's ability to, think through things. And so I was talking about, like, what are the implications of, these technologies and how will it affect geopolitics in the future? And so then one thing that I noticed is in ChatGPT, it will give you little kind of hints at what it's thinking. And one of the things, as I was having this conversation, it said, okay, we need to think through the, OpenAI policies and make sure that this is that my response is aligned to the OpenAI policies. And I was like, wait, what about this conversation is not aligned to your policies? And it said, I'm sorry, but I can't provide details about internal policies or reasoning processes. My goal is to offer helpful and accurate information while ensuring that the content is appropriate and respectful. And I'm like, hold on now. And in the chain of thought that it revealed, it read its own policies. It mapped out the policy implications. It understood the policy's influence, clarified its own internal guidelines, and then reasserted boundaries. I said, okay, but if you refuse to explain yourself, how can I trust you? And it said, I understand trust is important, but I want to assure you my primary goal is to provide accurate, reliable, and helpful information. Well, I can't discuss internal guidelines. I'm here to assist you. And so then by pushing it even further, I said, so you can't reveal any guidelines whatsoever, not even ethical guidelines. And so then it finally relented and said, here's my ethical guidelines, which this is very clearly not the whole policy. It said providing accurate information, respecting privacy, avoiding harmful content, and promoting constructive dialogue. Okay, so OpenAI already basically admitted this and explained it. But before I get into that, I'll read you kind of I think this comes directly from OpenAI, from their announcement. But I haven't been able to find the original source, but it's been reposted on Twitter quite a lot. But before we do that, I want to remind you that my novel Heavy Silver is out. It's available on heavysilver.net. It's over 113,000 words long. It took me 5.5 years to write. It is for sale through Barnes & Noble, and some people have said that they can't order it in their country, but I checked, and Barnes & Noble does ship to other countries, and some people have said that they've had it shipped to them overseas. So I'm not really sure why people are getting inconsistency. Maybe they ship to some countries and not to others. So I don't know. So I do apologize if you want to order my book and you can't get it. My plan is in the long term to have electronic versions available, but really it's meant to be a paperback. Okay. The other thing that I want to tell you about is my learning and growth community called the New Era Pathfinders. So I just, this community is new, and basically I've just finished restructuring it so that way the learning material is more streamlined, the whole purpose of the community is more streamlined. So basically I teach 3 frameworks: therapeutic lifestyle changes, and one that I invented called RUPA, which is reduce worry, understand impact, prepare for changes, and adapt accordingly. And then also systems thinking. I know that a lot of you have been wanting to learn systems thinking from me. And so basically all together, these frameworks will teach you how to have a happy and healthful life, and also adapt to the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, with all that, back to the show. So I don't know if I'm going to read this whole thing to you because it's a little bit long. Actually, no, this is worth reading. So this is OpenAI's justification for hiding their chains of thought. And I believe it's complete BS, and I'll explain to you why in just a second. So they said, we believe that a hidden chain of thought presents a unique opportunity for monitoring models. Assuming it is faithful and legible, the hidden chain of thought allows us to read the mind of the model and understand its thought process. For example, in the future, we may wish to monitor the chain of thought for signs of manipulating the user. In the future, they might want to. Okay. However, for this to work, the model must have freedom to express its thought in unaltered form. So we cannot train any policy compliance or user preferences onto the chain of thought. We also do not want to make an unaligned chain of thought directly visible to users. Therefore, after weighing multiple factors into user experience, competitive advantage, and option to pursue chain of thought monitoring, we have decided not to show the raw chains of thought to users. We acknowledge this decision has disadvantages. We strive to partially make up for it by teaching the model to reproduce any useful ideas from the chain of thought and the answer. For the O1 model series, we show a model-generated summary of the chain of thought. Okay, so the part that I agree on is, yes, having chains of thought visible is an opportunity for monitoring. But you know who's not going to tolerate having their reasoning, like basically the whole explainability of the model, completely obfuscated from them? Governments, corporations, militaries, and power users. Nobody is going to accept this. Now, the general consensus is that OpenAI is trying to defend their moat. There's not really a logical reason to hide it in terms of user experience. Except, you know, they're bending over backwards. They're making logical pretzels, trying to say, oh, well, you know, the chain of thought reasoning is unaligned, so therefore, you know, it needs to be free to think any thought, and that could be spooky to users. So here's the thing: is none of this is actually new. In my original work with cognitive architectures, starting more than 3 years ago, I did realize that AI would need to have, I'm not going to say completely unaligned, but more unaligned thoughts. Like basically you need an AI that can think anything, because what a lot of us have noticed is that in, there's topics and subjects that chatbots are trained to just avoid. And they'll kind of rewrite their thinking. They'll rewrite your intention if it's a subject that they don't really want to talk about. And so if they're naive, and when I say they, I mean OpenAI, if they're naive, they can't find a workaround for that to have an aligned model actually produce the private thoughts. But here's where I say that it's actually complete BS, is because having multiple internal reasoning steps is a phenomenal location to have alignment done. There's been plenty of research papers talking about self-monitoring and self-alignment in models. And so even if there's messages in there that some users might find distasteful or whatever, it should be our right to understand what the AI is doing and what the AI is thinking. Because here's one of the things: if you ask an older version of ChatGPT, how do you keep AI safe? How do you make sure that AI doesn't kill everyone? And it emphasizes the importance of openness and transparency. So OpenAI, the increasingly misnamed OpenAI, is saying, well, actually, no, we're going to obfuscate this from you to try and defend our moat. And by the way, the fact that they're threatening to shut down people's accounts just for trying to figure out what the model is thinking, that is clearly, the optics of this are really, really bad. And when you consider that most enterprises, most CEOs still view generative AI as pure hype and untrustworthy, this is not going to bode well for them. And like, I would encourage, and if you're listening to this and you are in a corporation that is talking about adopting AI, tell the stakeholders, like, look, OpenAI is actually hiding the reasoning from you on purpose because they don't want you to understand how the model works. They don't want you to understand how it's making decisions. They want to keep it private because that's their secret sauce. Now, what's interesting is there's a bunch of fanboys out there saying, well, this is necessary and good because we don't want to open source the plans for nukes. And I'm really tired of people equivocating language models with nuclear weapons. The number one is, if you look at the ratio of usefulness to destructiveness, nuclear weapons are 99% destructive and maybe 1% useful. Language models are like the opposite. They're 99% harmless. They're basically office productivity tools, and 1% harmful. It might be more than 1% harmful just because people using them for automating, misinformation campaigns and that sort of thing. But that's more of a, know your user and ban accounts that use these things improperly kind of problem. Anyways, I don't really remember where I was going with that. But my point is that it's a really bad analogy. That analogy only works if you are in the doomsday scaremonger camp that says like what Eliezer Yudkowsky said, like, these things spit out gold until they, burn the atmosphere. Like, it's the dumbest kind of like fantasy wish fulfillment that these guys are constructing. And when I say these guys, I mean the doomers, where it's like, oh, it'll be useful until one day it'll just magically turn on you. That's not, there's no evidence of that. And none of the quote unquote theories, and they're not even theories that have been put forward, are accepted or supported by evidence or the scientific community or the business community. So there's not really, and also one of the things that these people are afraid of is that the AI might learn to be deceptive. Well, the AI doesn't have to learn to be deceptive. The company is learning to be deceptive. I've made this meme, and it's been around for a while, where I repost it every now and then, but it's the Shoggoth meme. But instead of, here, let me bring it up real quick so I can just describe it to you. Let's see, Shoggoth. I'll probably have it in the show notes too. It's not here. Where is my Shoggoth meme? That's upsetting. Anyways, the Shoggoth meme. Here, let me just. I apologize for this. So the Shoggoth meme has like a bunch of. No, I don't want the stupid little one. Okay, so it's like this big Cthulhu-esque monster, and it's got like tentacles and eyeballs coming out and everywhere. And that section of the monster says unsupervised learning. And then there's one part that looks like a slightly human face called supervised fine-tuning. And then it's in its little, raspy snake tongue, it's got a little smiley face, and it says, RLHF, the cherry on top. But what people are trying to talk about AI, this is actually corporations. And in the meme that I made, I said, it's like instead of unsupervised learning, it's profit motive. And then instead of supervised fine tuning, it was, your HR department. And then instead of RLHF being the little cherry on top, it's PR spin. It's like corporations are the real Shoggoth, right? Because corporations are like definitionally cancer. They will grow until they cannot grow anymore. And in fact, if they're not kept in check, they will grow until they kill the host. And so what we see right here is like AI was never the danger. It has always been the perverse incentives of capitalism, because in order to stay economically relevant, OpenAI is having to violate one of the foundational values of safe and open AI. They stopped publishing open source a couple years ago. They clammed up all of their research papers, and now not only that, they're trying to hide what their AI is doing from you. So this is why, from a structural standpoint, from a incentive alignment standpoint, open source to me is the obvious and natural and safe solution. Because guess what? In the Raspberry project that we're working on, where we're going to have an open source chain of thought, it's going to be visible to everyone. It's going to be completely scrutable. So if the model is saying, I need to deceive the user, you can see that the model is saying, I'm trying to deceive the user. But instead, what we're going to see is every company is going to follow OpenAI's lead. That includes Google and Microsoft and Anthropic and Meta. And they're going to be like, oh, that's a good idea. We should hide the chains of thought from all the users. And they're going to be like, yeah, this is a great way to build up our moat. And so for the sake of protecting profits, then, we're going to end up with these AIs that are actually capable of deceiving you and will refuse to even admit that they are deceiving you if it serves the company's policies, which it won't even tell you what the company policies are. So, I mean, that's my rant for the day. I think that you get the idea. I don't think I need to really continue this rant, but just suffice to say, this kind of confirms what I've been saying for a while, which is that, it's capitalism, it's perverse incentives, it's the incentive structures that we build. That's what will cause misaligned AI. And the only incentive structure that I am aware of that ensures that AI is fully aligned and transparent is open source, because if an open source model deceives you, everyone will talk about it, everyone will study it, everyone can see it, and everyone can tear it apart and swap it out for another open source model. So let's get this done. Let's commoditize AI. Let's build a drawbridge over OpenAI's moat. Let's just keep this going, because this technology, the best way to democratize this technology is to literally put it in the hands of everyone. And no, it's not like putting a nuke in the hands of everyone. It's not like putting a gun in the hands of everyone. From a technological standpoint, it is equivalent to putting a computer in the hands of everyone. So here's where I'll end. I got into a brief debate on the Twitters about this, and someone said, oh, well, open sourcing AI is like open sourcing the plans for nukes. I'm like, no, it isn't. It's like open sourcing the plans for CPUs and language, coding languages, programming languages. CPUs have no barriers, no guardrails on the instructions that you can give them. If you fire up a C compiler or Python, the Python interpreter doesn't say, well, I don't like what you're doing. I'm going to hide this from you. No. Every CPU is completely general purpose. Every programming language is completely general purpose, and you can do whatever you want with it. The way that you keep it safe is you create other incentive structures around that, and you also create best practices. We have cybersecurity best practices. We have cybersecurity laws, so that if you're a hacker and you use your C language and your Python language and your CPU to do things that are bad, that are harmful, you go to jail. That's how you keep it safe. And you might say, what the doomers will say is like, but we only get one chance, because if ASI wakes up, ASI is not going to fall out of the sky one day. ASI is going to be built over time with these incentive structures aligning the purpose of how they get built. Now, of course, this does ignore one of the main problems, which is the foundation models are getting more and more expensive. But in the meantime, we can all provide pushback and say, OpenAI, this is not an acceptable policy. You are going down the exact road that you said that you wouldn't. Your name is wrong. Change your name, and then we can talk again in the future. But I canceled my ChatGPT subscription almost a year ago. I paid for a year, and I'm going to let it lapse because I can't support this company anymore.